Hi, this is Will with NDL Coding. Today we'll be installing the Eclipse development environment on Windows 10 and configuring it for Android development using the Android SDK. To get started, we'll be downloading the latest versions of Eclipse, the Java SE Runtime Environment, and the Android SDK. Using our trusty Google search engine, we're going to search for Eclipse and find the latest version. As of September 2015, it appears that Mars is the most recent Eclipse version. We'll be downloading the 64-bit installer for Windows. While downloading, you'll be given an option to donate to fund the Eclipse Ide development. Back to Google, we'll search for the Java SE Runtime Environment and quickly find out that the current, most recent version of the Java SE Runtime Environment is version 8. We'll be downloading the executable installer for this. With that download started, we'll head back to Google and start searching for the Android SDK. Google has its own development environment called Android Studio, but since we're looking to use Eclipse for Android development, we'll just need to scroll down and find the other download options such as the SDK tools only. Again, we'll be downloading the executable for Windows. Depending on your internet connection speed, this may take a while, so we'll go ahead and skip forward to installing from these files that we've downloaded. We'll include links to all of the websites that we've used to download these files in the description of the video, as well as links directly to the version of the files that we are using for this video, should you wish to replicate what we're doing here. As Eclipse depends on the Java runtime environment, we'll start with installing it. Again, this may take a while, so we'll speed it up a little bit and get to the end. Next up, we'll install Eclipse itself. We'll first demonstrate a problem that some people may have installing Eclipse. As you see, we double-clicked on the icon, the installer has come up, and we'll go ahead and move forward with installing the Eclipse IDE for Java developers. Note that it's trying to put this in C program files java-mars. We'll go ahead and click install and see what happens. As you can see, the installer moves happily along. Looks like things are progressing well until right here at the end. Here we get a cryptic message that says the installation failed with an error. What does that mean? Generally speaking, this means that you didn't run it as administrator. If you're using a default install of Windows 10 like we're doing here, you have user account control enabled by default, which means the system is not going to allow you as the user to change things in your program files folder without first elevating the command to an administrator level of app. We'll run it again, this time selecting Run as Administrator from the context menu, and we right click on it. Again, you'll see that it wants to install the application in C program files java-mars. This time it will complete without an error. We'll speed things up again and get to the end quickly so we can move on and show you how to configure the Android SDK in Eclipse. And with the installation success, we'll go ahead and close out of here. No, we won't launch it at this point because we still want to install the Android SDK. Following the prompts, we'll continue installing the SDK. We will decide to install this just for me rather than for everyone on this computer, and you'll see why in a moment. I personally prefer to put the SDK for Android in the same folder as my Eclipse installation. You may remember from earlier that I installed Eclipse under C program files java-mars. I'll go ahead and put the Android SDK under this parent folder for Eclipse as well. We'll click the next button and then finally the install button, and this will take a good bit of time, so I'll go ahead and speed this up for a bit and get to the end. When the installation is complete, we'll click Next and finally Finish. At this point, you'll see the Android SDK Manager pop up. We'll go ahead and bring that to the front as it goes through and decides which tools we need to download and install to actually do anything with Android. We'll take the defaults here and let it go through and download everything that's necessary to install these tools. Again, this will take some time, so I'll speed it up and we'll get to the end and move on to installing the ADT plugin for Eclipse. At this point, we can go ahead and close everything out. We've got everything installed that we need, and we'll be working on in the Eclipse development environment from here on. Again, I'm going to demonstrate a problem that you run into if you don't run Eclipse as administrator. In this case, we're installing the ADT plugin, so we're going to go ahead and start up Eclipse, take the default workspace, and go to the Help menu, Install New Software, and then type in the URL for the Google Android ADT plugin. This URL can be found in the description of the video below. We'll go ahead and type that in here and hit enter. From here, we'll select the developer tools that we want. We'll just go ahead and select everything, click Next, Next again. We'll accept the license agreement and finish. And the process will take a minute or so to finish, and we'll have the ADT plugin installed. This is a very easy mistake to make, especially for people that don't install Eclipse on a regular basis. I personally have used Eclipse for going on 8 years now, but it's not something that I find myself doing so regularly that I remember, hey, when I set this up, I need to make sure it's running as administrator. So this is a good reminder to anybody that's setting Eclipse up for the first time on their machine why you're going to have trouble if it's not running as administrator. When I restarted Eclipse, it should have prompted me to configure the Android SDK, or at very minimum give me a welcome screen for the Android SDK. In this case, I didn't see the welcome screen, and I don't see the options that I would typically see under the various menus. Realizing that my problem is that the Eclipse is not run as administrator, I go to my desktop icon, go to Properties, Compatibility, and check the button that says Run as Administrator. Now whenever I run it, I'm prompted by user account control to see if I really want to run the application, which I do. Eclipse opens up again, and again I'll take the default workspace option that comes up. As Eclipse loads, take note that I am doing this after having previously installed the ADT plugin without running as administrator. So when I start it up, I go to Help, check for updates, and then I say I'm going to install new software. At which point I put in the URL for the Google ADT plugin. And I'm somewhat confused when it comes up and tells me that there are no items to install. And I see the checkbox here at the right says hide items that are already installed. So I see that they're already installed. I check them again and click Next, at which point I'm going to get an error because it can't reinstall these tools since they're already installed. So I'll need to cancel out of here, go into installation details, and then select all of the Android things that I had installed previously and uninstall those. When the uninstall is complete, Eclipse will want to restart once again. Again, as it starts up, I'll take the default workspace that it prompts me for, and we're going to go through and do the process over again to install new software. I'm going to select the Android URL that I previously saved. This time we'll select all developer tools again, and the installation will succeed because we had not previously installed them. When the installation finishes, we'll be prompted once again to restart Eclipse, which we will do in a moment. This time as Eclipse starts, you see we get a welcome screen, and we also get a Android development toolkit window to complete the configuration, where we allow it to submit usage statistics. Again, we're going to click on the window menu, and we see we have some new options here: Android SDK Manager, Android Virtual Device Manager, and of course Preferences. We go into Preferences and we see we have an option for Android, and we check to make sure that the SDK location is where we installed the SDK, so everything looks good there. We are ready to use Eclipse for Android development. We hope you've enjoyed this video and are able to set up your own Android development environment using Eclipse. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button below and subscribe for future videos. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. For a full list of links to the software we installed today, please see the video description.